What's up, gang? Welcome to episode number 3 of segment 1, which is pricing your home appropriately in today's marketplace. And this episode is going over the CMA, the comparative market analysis. Now, we understand from the last episode, this is setting your home side by side with other homes like it, usually of the same style, meaning the same construction type. We have colonials, we have capes, we have ranches, we have raised ranches, we have A-frames, we have, the list goes on ad nauseum. But you really want to try as best you can to compare apples to apples. And we're going to do it in 4 sections. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to look at every sale, regardless of type of home, type of property, size, etc., 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 within about a quarter-mile radius, whether it's sold, whether it's on the market now still, doesn't matter what is going on with this property. It was withdrawn, it didn't sell. We want to know what's going on immediately surrounding that home. It's not going to weigh as much as a sold comparable of an identical type of home if we're looking at a home that didn't sell and it's a different style home and it's way smaller and all other things being unequal. But we'd like to know about that home that maybe didn't sell next door, or the home that did sell for a ridiculous price across the street even though it's completely different. The buyers in our market will have this information, as will the real estate professionals on the buyer side will have that information as well. So, it's good to have answers for questions when people show up to your residence about what went on across the street. Maybe you know, maybe you didn't know. If you've got your eyes peeled and you're staring out your window every day at what's going on in your neighborhood, maybe you caught it, but a quarter mile in the other direction, the buyers are doing their research. They're looking at what's going on very local to your sale, even if it may not be exactly the same type of house. So we want to look at those things. Second, what we're going to do, the second of 4, we are going to look at the most solid, the highest fidelity information, which are sold comparables. Now we know exactly what it sold for, when it sold, how long it took to sell, what type of house it is, all the photographs of the house, etc., etc., etc. This is sure knowledge. However, while it is sure, it is also the oldest, right? So we're looking today, generally speaking, we're looking about 6 months into the past at comparables. We don't really want to go too far into the past beyond 6 months because the market's been very dynamic post-pandemic. Prices have been rising, falling, rising, 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 falling, rising. And we don't want to be weighing comps too far in the past that would cause us to have a glitch in our pricing matrix, so to speak. And again, now, looking at sold comps, we are going to take homes of the same kind. Let's say today we're looking at a 2,000 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, colonial on a half an acre. Very common property in most suburban areas in the United States. And we are going to compare your home, which we just described, to other homes of the same kind. Now, what does that mean? I mean, not every home is the same, and certainly not even close to the same in most cases. So where do we draw the line? Where do we end? And it's generally speaking, within 1 to 3 miles, as long as you're not crossing any town lines or state lines, and within 30% of the square footage above grade, above the street level. So if we've got, as I described, a 2,000 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath colonial, those are, multiple story, usually 2 stories above the ground. Maybe there's finished basement space, maybe there isn't, but the square footage, as it is understood by the wider market, is just the square footage that's above the ground. In lots of advertising platforms and lots of MLS databases, there are fields that would list and describe below grade, under the street level, living or recreational, can't necessarily be living space, but recreational space, common space, utility space, storage space, blah, blah, blah. But it is not as heavily weighted and not generally taken into account when recorded in public manifest. So now let's say we've got 5 homes that are around the same square footage, within 30% of the square footage. So what would that be? It would be 2,600 square feet at the top, and it would be 1,400 square feet at the low. We're looking at those homes. Generally speaking, we'd like to see the same number of beds and baths. around the same amount of property. And then we're adding and subtracting value based on different features. Do you have a detached 2-car garage on your property? You know, that's worth quite a bit of money. Is that attached 2-car garage with utilities? Does it have water and electric out there? Is it just a garage with, you know, a manual door? Does it have an opener? You know, is there a workshop in there? You get the idea. We're adding and subtracting value. Now let's think about other infrastructure items that you may have that are different and unique. You know, maybe your house is connected to municipal city water and sewer, or town water and sewer, or you have private on-site waste management systems, you know, septic or cesspool, something older like that. You know, again, we're adding and subtracting value. In the case of something like a cesspool, let's take our local area here in Rhode Island, Massachusetts. You know, this is the sort of thing that has to be corrected either before in Massachusetts, in case of Massachusetts, or immediately after a sale in some cases in Rhode Island. You can't let that cesspool sit there. So, you know, that's a dollar sign that the incoming buyer now has to figure into the sales price. They have to come up with that money potentially either right before, during the contract period, or right after the sale to turn that cesspool into a septic system, adding and subtracting. Now we're looking at deferred maintenance, or, you know, is the home very well maintained? How old is the roof? How old are the windows? How old is the heating system? How old is the air conditioning system? Plumbing, is it all modern PVC? Is it all old copper? We're looking at things like, you know, in some municipalities, lead lines in the city. You know, if it's an older city and they used to have, you know, lead water pipes, water systems, has it been corrected all the way into the street, or, you know, is the buyer going to have to be worried about you know, lead poisoning and things like that? Speaking of lead, how old is your home? Is it built before 1978, and could there potentially be the presence of lead paint somewhere under the more modern layers of paint? All of these things taken into account. There's just innumerable items and fields that you know, professional listing a listing agent would go through in trying to appropriately price your home. Now let's get off of just the property's characteristics, and we'll look at the comp's characteristics insofar as what price did they sell at, what price were they listed at, meaning did the home sell above or below asking price, and how long did that take? In today's market, in this local area in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, it's still a very hot seller's market. So if the property had been lingering for, you know, 2 months, 3 months on the market and couldn't find a buyer, and then started to have some price reductions, clear what happened. You know, that property was overpriced, and the market did not like that pricing structure. And in the reverse, if it was on and off the market in a day or two, we can understand that, you know, it was probably underpriced, and, you know, there could have been some money left on the table there by not asking for enough and letting the market bid the price up from there, you know, really squeezing every last drop out of it. So we're going to take those things into account in our pricing structure. And also, as sort of alluded to in previous installments here, you kind of got to take the temperature of the buying population in your local area. So again, taking Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts as an example, buyers are exhausted around here, guys. You know, you are a very well qualified buyer. You're putting a heck of a lot of money down. You're out there shopping for homes and you're losing bids over and over again. You're going $20,000, $40,000. I had a colleague of mine just last week lose a bid after the property their buyers made an offer on went over $100,000 over the asking price, over the listed price. This particular buyer had waived inspections. They were offering $10,000 appraisal gap, which, you know, we can touch on that concept in another video. And they were just unbelievably well qualified buyers. They're doing everything they could to get this property and still lost the bid. So when you're pricing your home in that type of market atmosphere, you can't even be $3,000 priced over exactly the value that the comparables prove where your value should be for your home. So if the comps are let's say $400,000, and you go out to market at $415,000, $405,000 in some cases, people just won't show up. They're so exhausted from continually overpaying and still losing bids. Meanwhile, interest rates continue to rise, and it gets tougher and tougher for buyers out there. If they feel like you're being greedy as a seller, even by a very slim margin, people just won't call. And you eventually are doing price reductions after a certain period of time. Now your home's out there on the market longer than it should have been, and you have a price reduction. The optics of your sale have been shot full of holes, and you're in a bad way right now. You really need to be careful to price your home exactly where the comparables prove value, so that the market says, yeah, this is a reasonable asking price. Whether or not it stays reasonable is another question. All the buyers show up, all the offers show up, everybody's bidding against each other. We're in some measure here exploiting human buying psychology by this guy wants it, then I want it more, and the price goes up. That's what you want as a seller, but it's a little tricky getting there, right? You really got to take a lot of things into account. So far, we've gone over macroeconomics. We've gone over assessing your property's unique features. Now we're doing the comparative market analysis. Next, in the next video, we're going to think about changes and characteristics in your local market atmosphere that could also have a dramatic effect on how you want to price your property. So if you're enjoying the content so far, like and subscribe down below. Something you think I missed, please feel free to comment, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I'll see you in the next video.